Okay, so the first video that I want to watch tonight is this one by Rugs. If you guys don't know Rugs, he's known throughout the classic community as someone that really knows his shit when it comes to Wrath of the Lich King. So if you're not following Rugs, if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're watching it live on stream, I will post the links, but you should definitely subscribe to his channel. He's actually grown quite a bit, like already. Like he's been on a lot of Crix's and Sarth's podcasts. He's kind of one of their regular guests that they bring in when they want like an expert opinion. But I mean, just like 2 weeks ago, he had like 1,000 subscribers, so he's growing pretty quickly. I haven't watched this video yet. It's 10 tips for Phase 1 loot priority. I know for sure one of the things he's probably going to say is that your Demonology Warlock has got to be geared like ASAP because your casters your casters damage rise as your demo lock is doing more damage. So it's definitely that's definitely got to be one. I don't know about the rest of you, but I like the tanks to get geared first as well. It just seems to make the raids a lot easier when the tanks aren't getting one shot. So I would say the tanks, if there's tank gear that's being dropped, it's or that type of gear, or the badges or whatever. I like to see the badges go to the tanks pretty quickly. It makes it easier for the healers. It makes it easier for lack of wipes and stuff like that. So let's see what he says, though. I'm not even gonna scan through to see what he actually said. So, anyways, enjoy the video. If you're watching this live on stream, please feel free to make any comments or whatever. I will be stopping the video regularly to give my opinion as well. If you're watching on YouTube, let me know in the comments below whether or not you agree with his tips for priority, or if there was something else, or maybe if there was something that surprised you.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about loot priority tips for Phase 1. I thought about doing a full Phase 1 loot priority video, but that would just end up
Phase
being
1, okay.
3 to like 6 hours going through every single item in all of Phase 1. And I genuinely didn't think it was worth it. I think Phase 1 is pretty straightforward. And I think everything that you would get from a video that length, you can get from a video that's super short and sweet like this. I'm going to tell you everything that you really should know about maybe some big ticket items or just like loot philosophy things for Phase 1. And some of this even translates to all of Wrath. So let's jump right into it with the first tip. Dying Curse priority. Now, this is going to be one of the most contested items in Phase 1. Genuinely, you can't go wrong here. Every caster is going to want this. Personally, I just wanted to throw out there that Demonology Warlock is a great choice for this. As we all know, Demonology Warlock is going to get funneled pretty much every item that they want in the first place. But what's really...
If you're not funneling your Demonology Warlock gear, you're literally griefing your entire raid. Never mind just your casters, but your entire raid.
particularly nice about Dying Curse on a Demo Lock early is that means that they can stop going for hit with talents. They can stop going for hit with other pieces of their gear. That 71 hit rating helps their loot and helps them build out their characters so much better that they're actually buffing their raid with more spell power.
Also, I would strongly suggest anyone who is raid leading or a guild leader or whatever, make sure that your demo lock is somebody that you trust, somebody that you don't think is going to flee the guild. Don't make it somebody that you're just recruiting. Like, don't recruit your Demonology Warlock. Make sure it's somebody that you trust, because the second they up and leave for whatever reason, if there's some greedy mofo, then you're screwed. You gotta re-gear another demo lock. So for us, for example, it's gonna be our raid lead that is actually gonna be playing demo lock. It was gonna be basically him or I. And I was wanting to swap to mage, so I didn't have to play Demo Lock. So anyways, he's going to be playing Demo Lock anyways. So yeah, definitely make sure that you're sure about the person that you're selecting to play Demo.
Not just from the...
Is it general order to spawn on the raid called Romanowski? Yeah, give it to Romanowski. That's not what it is.
Dying Curse.
That's not what it is.
So Dying Curse is a huge quality of life help on top of a massive personal DPS gain on top of a raid DPS gain for you. So I really
he's explaining here why it's really important.
Demonology Warlock first, and then you can worry about every other caster after that. Speaking of Dying Curse,
every other caster would be the mage. By the way, the mage with the letter starts with A. Or the
I
name
just
starts
wanted
with
to
A.
address the Spellhance stuff. People have been talking to me a lot about like getting annoyed that Spellhance is going to compete with caster loot for them. And yeah, I mean, if Dying Curse is on their BIS list, then it's on their BIS list. And I'm just tired of hearing people whine about that. Like, Spellhance is gonna want caster gear. Like, that's just how it works. If it's BIS, it's BIS.
You know how you get around this? Don't bring a Spellhance shaman. There, problem solved.
Like, get over it. They're basically just another caster
Problem
in a lot
solved.
of ways. So if it's BIS for them, then give it to.
There's going to be a lot of raids that don't bring a second shaman. Like I can tell you right now, there's going to be a lot of raids. They will max out at 2 shamans and that's it. I know they do a lot of damage, but so do a lot of other classes, right? And I think the big question around Spellhance shamans is, do they scale very well? Right? If they don't scale very well, why bring one in the first phase if you can bring another class that you know scales really well and still give him that gear to begin with? So I think that's the big question that people aren't really sure about is, will Spellhance Shaman scale very, very well? And I've heard a lot of people say they don't think that they will.
To them for sure. If it's not BIS for them and it's BIS for someone else, then okay, of course, prioritize another caster. If they have another option that is going to be really, really, really close in value, then sure, prioritize a different caster over a Spellhance. But for most of the cases, when a Spellhance is going for a caster item, it's because it's genuinely their best in slot for the phase. Like, I'm tired of y'all like trashing on Spellhance just because they want caster loot. Like, that's just how it works in Wrath. You need to get over yourself. In terms of Wraith Strike,
So there.
don't give this to anyone else except for the Spellhance. I know that Boomkins can wear fist weapons, and they will get a lot of spell power haste crit from this, but this is a massive, massive, massive item for Spellhance Phase 1. This has...
Are you guys bringing a Spellhance Shaman? We don't have any plans right now to bring a Spellhance Shaman, actually. We're going to bring a Resto, and that's it. So...
like Spellhance written all over it, and please
you
never
are bringing
give
one.
a Wraith Strike to anyone other than...
Are you playing the Spellhance, Roman?
Enhanced Shaman in Phase 1.
Oh.
Third tip. So I want to talk about tier real quick. First of all,
Alive?
let's celebrate because tier...
Really? He's coming back? Wow. Tier 3. Okay, so here we go.
Tier is actually really obtainable in Phase 1. Everything except for your headpiece, of course.
So with this, man, who do you give it to first out of this? I mean, I guess it depends. Are you going to have a warrior as a tank? I know a lot of guilds are not going to even have a warrior as a tank. Again, warriors, don't hate me. Okay, I'm just the messenger a lot. Okay, so who do you start giving this the tier pieces for Lost Protector? I mean, if your shaman's a healer, maybe your healer or your hunter. I don't know about the warriors though, because
you can get tier from emblems. You can get a full 4-piece from emblems. In fact, you can get 80
you're
emblems
gonna get
of
tier
heroism
pieces
together to
really
get your
quickly
chest.
here.
This is of course going to be your 200 eye level chest, 60 for your gloves, and then you can get 60 Val'anyr for your T7.5 shoulders and 75 for your T7.5 legs. This is a full 4-piece tier set that you could obtain just from emblems alone. So in terms of tier distribution, if you don't receive a tier item in a Nax run, look, you gotta pick and choose your battles. That is not a big deal. You will obtain your 4-piece.
So you guys are bringing 2 shamans
quickly.
in, Roman?
On top of not only that, can you obtain all of these from emblems, you can get all of them from VOA as well. Well, your chest, legs, and gloves from VOA. So that's just another way that you're obtaining tier. So the only contested tier items really are your headpieces. And a lot of classes don't even use the tier headpiece. That's their off-piece slot. So tier, especially in Phase 1,
a lot of people have engineering and stuff like that.
Gone are the days of this being one of the most dramatic pieces for a Loot Counsel to distribute. Y'all should really like celebrate that tier is finally going to be one,
super
accessible,
easy to get,
and 2, like far less drama. In terms of who should be receiving tier first,
everyone you'd have to tell the mages which mage is going to get their tier piece first.
I just want to personally throw out there that I love prioritizing my off-spec boys with tier, especially early on in Nax if I'm giving it out. So that's like my off tanks, maybe like the guy who's doing the third tanking on Patchwork, or just your off tank in general, or even like your fifth or fourth healers, the ones who are going to be DPSing a lot of phase 1. This helps them out a lot because otherwise they're going to have to be spending double the amount of tier with their emblems, and giving them the tier tokens early just really makes everything feel a lot more fair since they are playing essentially 2 specs in a raid environment. That's my 2 cents on tier. I'm really glad that we have Wrath tier loot because it is just so much better. Let's talk about Journey's End, and this is specifically for all Feral and Hunter contested BIS weapons for the entirety of Wrath. Every time that you run into a situation where you see Journey's End drop or a new best in slot weapon that's both best in slot for Feral and Hunter, you will always prioritize your Feral on this. You always prioritize.
I was gonna say why. Like I get that some of the stats and stuff are really good for a Hunter, but
your Feral.
This is
the reason
gotta go to Feral
because
first.
Feral have this hidden attack power buff on every single weapon now that says increases the attack power by X amount in Cat, Bear, Dire Bear, and Moonkin forms only. There's a hidden Feral attack power buff that's on every single weapon, and Ferals get predatory strikes, which means every single weapon that they equip also gains an extra 20% attack power. So it's a huge attack power gain every time a Feral is getting their best in slot weapon or just a weapon upgrade in general. So giving that stat stick to, say, a Hunter, for example, would be like giving a
that is basically what it is for a Hunter.
Gun to a Warrior over a Hunter. It just don't do it. You give your stabs and your polearm bis to
I think our Feral would be
early on, and you give them to your Hunters later.
If we give it to a Hunter, and I think the Hunters
next up, let's talk about Torch
as well.
Now, Torch.
So is this another one? This is haste rating, increased spell power, mana.
Of course, you see this, and this is your MP5 item with haste.
So if it's a one hand, so
and spell power, your best.
What, you can have your priest maybe
much
that
all
want
of your
this?
healers in phase 1.
All healers.
But we need to talk about your casters because this is also best in slot for your Boomkins, your Elisham, and your Shadow Priest. So do not forget about those guys. Torch is actually one of the most contested items in all of phase 1, considering it's Disc Priest Bis, Holy Priest, Resto Druid, Resto Shaman. Your Holy Paladins can use it as their Bis. Like, this is a really contested item, but just don't forget your casters. It says MP5 on it, I know, but this is also Boomkin, Ellie, and Shadow Priest Bis, and they really want this item.
I think the nice thing about this video so far is that like explains a lot. Like he's giving a very very informed opinion of how these items work, so you can share this video with people in your guild to let them know where your Loot Counsel may be coming from. If you don't run a Loot Counsel system, then it's it doesn't really matter. But if you're running a Loot Counsel system, you should probably be sharing this video with people in your guild so you can get an idea as to why decisions are being made and not to get all uptight if an item goes to an off tank or something like that.
Item going into Ulduar progression, so don't forget them. This is a tough one to make a decision on. So best of luck out there to you Loot Counsel boys. Speaking of healer stuff, if you are the healer who is first in line for Val'anyr, that probably means you should be last in line for any weapon upgrades in phase 1. Typically, this is going to be like your Holy Paladin, for example. If you're a Holy Paladin in phase 1, you need to be comfortable just using something like Life and Death as your phase 1 bis. Unless you just get super lucky and you see a lot of Turning Tides drop, or you see a lot of Torches drop, or something like that, you're probably not going to have your best in slot weapon going into Ulduar. That's just how it works, because Warlocks and Mages and all the other casters are going to be competing for a lot of the same weapon upgrades as you. So if you are the first in line for Val'anyr, just prepare to take the back seat for pretty much any weapon upgrade in Naxxramas. Let's talk about the Saffron quest item neck. This is the quest item that drops off Saffron every time you kill him in both 10 and 25. Speaking of the 25-man version, you take this quest item, you go into EOE, and you get these awesome Ulduar eye level neck pieces. You have the hit haste, spell power, neck. You have the armor pin one. Then you have the MP5 one and block one. My tip here is never give these to a tank or healer, ever. The Wormrest Necklace of Power is massive on a Warlock, for example. Favor the Dragon Queen is going to be massive on pretty much all of your melee, especially like a Feral Druid early on. So Feral Druids and Warlocks really should be prioritized on the Saffron Quest Neck. And just never give this to a tank or healer. Hell, I mean, your tanks have a tank neck that drops off of KT 25 man that is really, really good that no one could use anyway. So
I was going to say, really what are the options that you're going to give them instead?
Tank. Definitely want to prioritize your DPS here. Let's talk about.
I like the fact that he's giving like an objective opinion or an informed opinion as to what other options you have for the other people as well. Like if you're going to give your your Warlock this neck piece or whatever, you're giving it to him for this reason, and don't give it to these other classes because they've got these options as well.
So there's a lot of really good loot that comes from Obsidian Sanctum. And I know a lot of you are going to be wanting
I almost feel like we should stop at every item and guess what class he's actually going to be giving it to. And let's see. Damaging anything is really good. 20 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. Like, for this, I almost feel like he might be saying that this is for a healer. Spellhance. Is that what you're saying?
Sanctum 3 Drake. One, because it's a little fun. It's been hyped up to be the hardest encounter of the phase.
Wrestler Druid, maybe. Of course,
there's really good loot. There's a title. There's a mount that comes from
maybe not Wrestler Druid.
But truth be told, after you've done OS 3D a couple times, it's kind of over. The mount is just a mount. The title is just a one-time thing, and you get all of the same loot just from doing OS 2D. So if you can split run Obsidian Sanctum, this might be the one thing that you'd want to split run in phase 1. Of course, if you can split run Nax and EOE as well, go for it. But I think this is just like the easiest thing to split run, the worst headache of all to burden yourself with, because you could probably do Obsidian Sanctum 25-man 2 Drake with, let's say, 15 people, 18 people. If you can manage doing split runs for OS 2D 25-man, that means you're all the more likely to obtain illustration of the Dragon Soul, for example, on all of your casters and healers who want it. There's a lot of good loot. I'm only displaying illustration here on the screen because this is probably the biggest item out of OS. So if you can, I would definitely recommend you split run OS. It's genuinely the only thing that's like worth the headache for in all of phase 1. Talking about EOE loot.
Yo, Bean, thank you very much. I am still on Alizé, yes, but thank you very much for the tier 1, man. I appreciate that. He didn't actually mention who that was going to, but with the way spell power works for both healing and DPS, I was kind of interested to hear who he was going to say that was going to. I didn't actually hear an answer to that, so let's see.
Loot. Now, EOE drops a ton of really good loot. It really does. EOE loot is amazing. Its eye level is 226. It's phenomenal. My tip here is don't disenchant any of it. You might see some of this loot, like living ice crystals, for example, or blanketing robes of snow, and lots of other loot that I didn't even display here. A lot of it's crap, and just either gets used by one person and then never again, or doesn't get used by like anyone at all. My tip for you is don't disenchant it. This high item level loot actually helps you for Flame Leviathan hard mode. When you do Flame Leviathan and you jump in your vehicles in Ulduar, they scale up based on your average item level. So if you can obtain more and more and more EOE 25-man loot and throw more of this gear on just for a Flame Leviathan set, it just makes that fight that much easier. And sure, Flame Leviathan isn't all that hard in Ulduar, but the easier you can make it phase week 1, the easier it'll be every week after, because you're going to be gaining more and more eye level in Ulduar anyway. So don't disenchant this stuff. You can always disenchant it later, and you'll have plenty of other ways to get Abyss Crystals in phase 1, so don't sweat it.
Wait, Flame Tongue is considered a cast every time you hit with it? Yes. Yeah, just whisper me in game, Bean.
And lastly, my last tip is don't let loot drama get out of hand in phase 1. Look, phase 1 is easy.
You know what the problem? You have people that are just freaking out about loot. You know how many times we've had people like that just lose it? We had people, and I mean this video is great. And hopefully he goes over this as well. We had people in TBC who would be with the guild for 1 week, and I'm not kidding you, 1 week. And when CVOS dropped, yeah, CVOS dropped, and we got lucky. We had CVOS drop 3 times in 4 weeks. 2 of those weeks, we had people G quit because they weren't the person who got CVOS, and both people were people that were brand new to the guild. One person was somebody who spazzed out and quit the guild, and then came back. Oh, I'm sorry, blah blah blah. I was stupid. I made a mistake. Came back. CVOS dropped, and he didn't get it. Why would we give it to the dude? The guy's already shown that he's basically going to just bounce at any given moment. He's a head case and just flips out and drops the guild. He's been back for a week, and he got Loot Counseled and another item before that. Deliberately didn't put it on in case CVOS dropped. And I'm sitting like I talked to the Loot Counsel guys afterwards, and they were like, "Why would we give him something? He just quit the guild and then just suddenly came back like after a week. Like, we're not going to give somebody a big ticket item like that after they've basically just G quit and then suddenly came back. Like, why would we trust them suddenly with a big ticket item like that?" And it was we basically let the guy back in the guild because he was friends with somebody else. We thought he gave a heartfelt apology or whatever. Anyways, so he didn't get it, and immediately, as soon as it came down, he G quit. He and a buddy of his G quit because he didn't get the item, and we had to finish off that raid minus 2 people because of it. The very next week, we recruited another shaman to replace him. He went through the 1 week trial. He got 2 pieces in that trial, 2 of his best pieces, because and normally in a 1 week trial you don't get anything, but it was like, we're not going to just toss this loot out. We just gave it to him because our guild was so geared, because we've been clearing everything since week 1. We were like, oh, whatever, we're not going to toss it out even if he doesn't pass the trial. Like, we'd just be being jerks. He got 2 pieces, and then I think he actually got a 3rd piece that wasn't his best, but it was better than what he had. The second week he came back, so he passed his trial. He actually performed pretty well. He came back for his first actual week in the guild, officially in the raid. CVOS dropped. He didn't get it. G quit after the raid. He's like, "You're going to have to explain that one to me, boss." He actually said that to me. That's actually a direct quote. "You're going to have to explain that one to me, boss." And I'm like, "Well, explain what?" He's like, "Well, you gave it to this guy." And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "But I performed higher than he did." And I'm like, "Dude, you've been in the guild for a week." He's like, "Yeah, but I passed the trial." Like, I passed the trial. And I'm like, "Okay." Like, I don't know about you guys. How many of you guys in chat, like, if you pass a trial in the guild and like the big ticket item drops for that phase of the game, are you expecting that in your second week raiding with them that you're going to get that piece of gear? I mean, probably not. I don't know about the rest of you. The rest of you may be watching on YouTube. I know you passed. I know you passed the trial, but the big ticket item just dropped, dude. I don't think that you're going to get it over someone that's been in the guild for, 6 months or whatever and has been here since day 1 of TBC, and suddenly their big item drops, right? Like, I wouldn't expect that if I was joining another guild. So anyways, it's kind of absurd. People fighting over pixels. I would prefer personal loot, so there's no drama and loot get distributed fairly and automatically. Personal loot, you mean like they do in retail? I kind of like the fact that there is a bit of a choice. And you do get to know people when you see how they react to things not being given to them, anytime someone tells you have to do something, you do the opposite. When possible, yes, of course. Anyways, let's see what this guy says about personal loot drama. The problem with that is no matter how fair you are, like, I like to think that our Loot Counsel is extraordinarily fair. In fact, when we created the guild, I told them, I said, "Listen, above anything else, I need you to be fair. Don't play favorites. Don't give me items because I'm a guild leader. Try to be fair and honest and open. If people have a question, is, hey, why was this given to so-and-so? Give them an honest answer. But there are going to be those people that are out there that no matter what you say, they are going to be pissed off because they believe they deserve a piece of gear beyond above everyone else. And it depends on how you run your loot council, right? Some people run their loot council where they automatically give the top performers the piece of gear every single time. Other loot councils are, they reward people because everybody's putting in their time. So you've got to throw people, a little bit of a bone type of thing to make sure that people understand, hey, listen, we understand you've been, you put in an effort, you come prepared, all that sort of stuff, right? Like if you've got one guy who is, let's say he's a mage and he's got like the second BIS item, whatever it is, and suddenly the BIS item drops, do you give it to him or do you give it to another guy who's trying really, he's doing the best that he can, doing really a really good job? Maybe he's not quite as good as that guy, but his item level is way lower. Like you can't expect him to be doing as much damage as him. Some loot councils would give it to the guy who is the top performer, and other loot councils would say, you know what, we've got to spread it around a little bit. It depends on how you run your loot council. With us, we like to spread it around. With the mage tier set, for example, what was it in phase 5, or in tier 5, we had a mage that was like, okay, this mage is really good. He's gonna get it first, and it was understood. Everyone understood that. It made sense because it helped the raid out. But anyways, those are decisions that each individual raid and guild leader and their loot council have to make for themselves.
Well, like we've been seeing on the beta, it's
I never saw loot councils were not corrupt. You have not been in our loot council then. I'd rather have loot distributed automatically and hidden so no one can see what people get. You would know what they get as soon as they put it on, dude. Like, what do you mean? Like you would know the second the mage or warlock equipped Zardoom, you would know what they had. You would know that they got it or came to the next raid with Zardoom when they didn't have, right? So I think any loot drama is either the result of one of two things. Number one, you have a poor loot council and they're making bad decisions, and legitimately the raiders have a reason to complain about it. That is totally plausible. Like there are lots of loot councils that are completely biased and bullshit. There are other loot councils, and I like to believe that ours is one of them, where they are very open and honest about why things are being distributed the way they are. There are times where I've had people in the raid that have had a little bit of an issue as to, like I said before, we've had people that have G-quit over it. But as far as like the decisions that are made, they will, if there's a beef, they'll say this is why we chose to give it to this person. And you know who suffers the most, actually? The people that are actually in the loot council. Because the way we do it is you can't vote for yourself. And I have specifically told loot council, don't give me loot first. Don't, like, it looks so bad if, whatever, an item drops and it goes to the guild leader first every time or something like that, right? Like I've told them, hold off, give it to someone else. I'm perfectly fine with that. In fact, for this entire last several weeks, last month and a half, I've told our loot council, I don't want anything. Don't give me anything unless absolutely nobody else wants it, for two reasons. One, I want the other loot to be spread around. But number two is there's a good chance that I'm swapping to a new main. And I think it's absurd, well, kind of silly, if somebody's already announced, hey, I'm swapping to a new main, and then still getting like a good portion of the loot. Like, I think, in my opinion, it should be distributed to other people in the raid. Even though I've been there every single raid. I've never missed a raid. I put in all the work. I come fully consumed. I know all the fights. I perform pretty well. If I, as a raider, if I, like, never mind being a guild leader, but for example, like we have a resto shaman, for example, that is swapping to a completely different class. We already know this. If a healer item drops and it's between him and someone else, in my opinion, it's more beneficial to the raid if you give it to the other person than the person that you know that next week or 2 weeks from now is swapping to another class. However, the argument could be made that, hey, the guy's been here, he's been raiding, he's been doing all the content and stuff like that. He's brought all the consumes, he's been performing really well. Who cares about what happens in 2 weeks? He was here for when it dropped. He has just as much right to it as anyone else. And I understand that argument. But for me, myself, who's switching to a different main, if I get a new piece of gear, I feel stupid because there could have been someone else that got it. So, for example, today, we were running through Black Temple, and and Zardoom dropped, and the Loot Counsel gave it to my alt mage that I was dragging through Black Temple, and I was like, oh shit, no, like this can't happen. Like I know we're trying to get our alts for the last like month and a half. We've been starting to bring our alts through Black Temple and Sunwell in order to start getting geared early for Wrath. Like we've been doing this for weeks now. Our raids have not performed nearly as well as they could have because we've been bringing alts through that don't quite have the gear for it. And I started freaking out going, no. There's got to be somebody out there that still needs Zardoom. It turns out there wasn't a single other person that even pressed that they needed it in the Loot Counsel add-on. So I was like, I even messaged them. I'm like, is there anyone else that actually needs this? I even asked them in Discord, is there anyone else that needs this? And everyone was like, no, everyone passed on it. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Then I'll take it. But otherwise, like I was freaking out. But again, you have to, I think the main point is you have to have a very good understanding between your Loot Counsel, your guild leader, and your entire raid as to the method that you're, the ideas that or what you're thinking of when you're distributing loot. If you're not open and honest about, hey, these are how we weigh our decisions, then you're going to have a lot of people question what you're doing and asking and getting pissed off and angry. For example, when we first went into Black Temple Hyjal, we announced to everyone, this is our loot priority. We are going to be focusing loot heavily on the tanks. The tanks are going to get Loot Prio. Everybody understood that. Loot whore, I know. I'm a whore for loot. Anyways, that's how we approach it. We like to tell people, okay, listen, this is who's going to get priority. So there's no freaking out. Like when a tank piece drops and it goes to the tank, guess what? Nobody's surprised. Nobody's like, oh, what the hell? I thought that was going to me. Like you don't get that. You have to be open and honest about it. We had one show on ICC and then Trinket dropped. She announced this is her last rating because she is pregnant and quit after that. There was a huge discussion when she rolled on the Abyss caster Trinket. Well, we had 3 warlocks who wanted to continue for. Yeah, Zibby, what do? That's a perfect example, right? Like she's already announced that she's leaving. If she's leaving, would she expect to get it? I wouldn't. Like if I go to my raid leader and say, hey man, I've got 2 weeks left in me and then I'm being shipped off to wherever, Timbuktu, with another job, I'm not gonna be able to raid after that, blah blah blah. I don't want this stuff. Like honestly, like I would feel guilty if it was given to me. So that's just me. There would be no so did she tell you after or before? She told you before, right? We've had a couple people do that though, where they've raided with us, and then after they've gotten pieces during that raid, and then like between that raid and the next raid, they announce that, oh, listen, I got to stop raiding. I'm getting a little burnt out or whatever, and it's like, okay. Choosing the tune for G2G. Yeah, she's selling her account, maybe. Anyways, that's my opinion on Loot Counsel. If any of you guys are still watching on YouTube or something like that, I think it's extraordinarily important to be very open and honest. Again, Loot Counsels, some people like them, some people don't. I believe that if you have a non-corrupt and very open Loot Counsel, they are the best system for the game. But you have to be open and honest with your raiders, with your guild, as to what you want to accomplish with loot. And that's a big one. If you're not, You're going to have people that are angry and frustrated and pissed off. And again, you can be open and honest with them, and going in whichever direction you want to go with the loot council. If you want to be super like the best players get the best loot first, blah, blah, blah type of thing, be open and honest about it. Don't just do it. Tell people, listen, it's going to be given to these people first. In my classic raid, in vanilla, when we were going through AQ40, it was made very clear to me, Alodar, you are not the top mage in our raid. You will not be getting top priority on loot. And I understood that. And I was like, okay, because they told me. So when things dropped and it went to the better mages in the raid, I already knew that. I knew that going in, and if I didn't like it when they told me that, I could have dipped and said, you know what, I'll find a different raid then. But I understood the decision behind it. And I agreed. I agreed with it. I was like, yeah, you know what? This helps the raid more. I still got pieces of gear, but I didn't get the BIS weapon first. There's no way. In that one guild in 1,000. I mean, I guess it depends on how you recruit, right? You're always going to have people that are greedy. Even in our guild, like we tell people, listen, like this is how we do things. But then you'll have that one person who they don't get their one piece, like one piece just sets them off, and they're like, fuck this, I'm out. Right? Like, fuck this, I'm out. We've had that. We've had that happen 3 or 4 times. Where somebody didn't get one piece of gear, and even though, like, we had one guy who didn't get skull first, and it's like he G quit immediately when he didn't get it first. When he was getting like literally everything else first, he didn't get one item and he quit over it. And at the time, it was like, well, what the fuck? What the fuck is this problem? But we realized, you know what? It's better that you get rid of those people in the guild, because all they're going to do is continue to accumulate more stuff, and then they're going to dip later anyways. So it's best to find out about it early. Most guilds have a guild master with a bunch of real-life friends that help each other. Yeah, but it's up to your guild leader to put his foot down and say, listen, excuse me, I want a loot system that is fair. Or announce to the guild, this is how I want loot done. And if it's not done, your raiders will see that, and then they have the choice to leave, right? Because if you're bullshitting your raiders, I guarantee you one thing that will happen is your raid will fall apart. Because if you think that you're going to be able to have, play favorites with like 4 or 5 people or something like that, the rest of your raiders will see that and they'll say, "Yeah, no, we're out, we're done, I'm moving on." And you're going to have a constant cycle of people that are just leaving. Generally, raids have a little bit of a cycle, anyways. But if you have it's obvious that 4 people in your raid are constantly getting funneled gear, you'll have people dip in droves, Yeah, there's, but I'm okay with streamer prio. Yeah, of course, streamer prio. There's for sure. Anyway, let's continue watching the video here.
Pretty face roll. It's just as expected. The last thing you want is for people to get too caught up in some parse culture in phase 1, because parsing in phase 1 is just going to be kind of cringe. There's no way you're going to have enough time to have bloodlust on every single fight. There's no way that you're going to
wait, I think, how long ago was this video made? Because I think they've since announced August 8th. So I think soon after this, they announced that your cooldowns are all going to be reset after bosses, right? After all bosses, is that correct? But I think that might be old news, but
parse on Obsidian Sanctum 2 Drake if you're split running it with 15 to 18 to 20 people. It's just not worth it, guys, truthfully. Look, I'm a huge parse head. I want to parse in phase 1 as much as I possibly can. Trust me, guys, I'm right there with you. But getting really upset about some random loot decision, some random week of phase 1 is just not worth it. You have plenty of time to get your full BIS before Ulduar. Just hang tight, guys. Really, I don't think that any of the drama that could possibly come out of phase 1 loot drama is really ever going to get you anywhere in life. It is a terrible decision, and this is a tip that you could take for the entirety of the expansion, but just truth be told, phase 1 is just not worth it. It won't be a super exciting parse or speed running phase. I think a lot of guilds will end up just split running all of Nax and OS and EOE just to get, you know, as the full bits that they can before Ulduar. So just take your time, enjoy the phase, level up alts, go for achievement runs, do all that stuff. Get the loot that you can, try to make good loot decisions, but just don't get too caught up in the drama. And that's it, boys. Thanks so much for watching. I want to keep this video short and sweet because I want to avoid doing the 3-hour, 4-hour runoff of every single loot item in Phase 1. I hope you learned all that you could from this video. Take this video and share it with your Loot Counsel and the rest of your guild if you want to have a little bit more knowledge going to Phase 1 loot. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Please leave a like, comment, or subscribe down below. You genuinely have no idea how much that kind of stuff helps me grow the channel and just put out more videos like this. So thanks so much, guys. Peace.
Oh, I was the 900th. Anyways, yeah. If you guys have not, again, if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on stream, the link, I will link directly to his video and his channel in the YouTube, down below the YouTube video. Definitely go over to his channel, subscribe. What the hell? Went down. Anyways, definitely go over to his channel, subscribe to his channel. I expect Rugs is going to come out with a ton of really useful information. This guy, like I said, is one of the people that a lot of the bigger content creators, Sarth, Crix, etc., are going to for his expert opinions. So he's come out with quite a few videos recently, and they've all been very, very well put together. So anyways, that's going to be it for this video. If you liked it, if you're watching my video on YouTube, please do me a favor and like and subscribe to my channel or as well, or like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you like the commentary, I do stream 6 nights a week, from Tuesday to Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern, and then till really late at night. Like right now, is it really 6 o'clock in the morning? It's 6 o'clock in the morning, so we stream till really late. So anyways, if you want, come talk to me over on twitch.tv/Alodar. Again, all of the links, including my Twitch channel, will be down below. Feel free to stop by. We'll talk to you guys again soon. Take care.